Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Two-Way Tonight on a June Friday. Very grateful to you for being part of the program. Thank you for joining. And it's a big news day for a Friday in the summertime. Some major Supreme Court rulings, particularly one related to the power of federal district court judges to issue nationwide injunctions. Victory for President Trump. Two other big victories for conservatives. And I'll bottom line it for you. If you have a 6-3 majority on the high court, you're going to win a lot. And the president and conservatives won three big rulings today. The president terminated trade negotiations with Canada today. He says over there, the Canadians threatening American digital properties, the big social media platforms. S&P reached a new high, and we'll talk about that. The president, both in a press conference today where he talked about a range of things, we'll get to some of them, went after Iran, talked about the big victory he says they won, and kind of mocked the Ayatollah for talking tough. We'll talk about that as well. Reconciliation, some developments. The president of UVA is quitting under pressure from the Trump administration, and a few things happening in the New York City mayor's race. We will talk about all of that with our guests, two stalwart regulars here, Nomiki Konst and Hogan Gidley. Two guests I love, two professionals I respect. I like them even more because they tried to cancel their appearances at the last minute, and we declined to let them. And they agreed to show up, and they're both here. So very grateful to them both, and they're awesome. So thank them for doing that. We'll do all that, and then as always, eager to take your questions and comments. So if you're here on the Two-Way platform and you wish to be involved, please raise your hand. We'd love some new people. If you've never asked a question, tonight could be the night. And if you're watching on other platforms, live or on demand, please don't put smack in the chat. And remember, we like spirited debate. We don't like violations of our peace, love, and understanding ethos. But first, before all that, a word from one of our sponsors, Indeed. If you're trying to build a company or run a company, and I know about both those things right now, hiring is vital. Hiring quick is important. Getting good people quickly, nothing more important. And for that, Indeed is all you need. You should stop struggling to get your job posts. Other sites, Indeed sponsor jobs, help you stand out and hire well and quickly. Sponsor job posts jump you to the top of the page for all the relevant candidates, and so you can find people quick. Makes a huge difference. Indeed's data suggests sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed, 45% more applications are generated compared to the non-sponsored jobs. A listener of this program or a viewer, if you want to get in on this, you get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Go to Indeed.com/two-way to grab your $75 sponsored job credit. Again, go to Indeed.com/two-way right now. Indeed.com/two-way. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. All right. On to the news. As I said, probably the biggest thing is the Supreme Court case. And it's interesting because it's complicated. Well, it's interesting because it's complicated. Even people who support the ruling question just how significant it is. They did not rule on birthright citizenship, which was kind of the underlying issue. That's one of many issues on which the administration has been stymied by district court judges' rulings. There's a range of them, and the president now plans to appeal widely and pursue these cases where, for now, at least, district court judges don't have the capacity to issue these nationwide injunctions. Here's the president in the briefing room today on this matter. This would be 102B.
And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves.
All right. It's complicated, as I said, and even some legal scholars who like the decision on the right say there's all sorts of implications of this, and it's going to play out at the district court level, court of appeals, maybe back to the Supreme Court. And again, the underlying question of whether the president's right about birthright citizenship remains to be decided. Um, in the kind of subplot of this case, Justice Jackson joined the minority, the 6-3 minority, and wrote her own dissent. And Justice Coney Barrett seemed to engage in extremely personal invective against her colleague, criticizing her minority dissent. Here is Jonathan Turley on Fox News, kind of explaining that subplot of all this. 112, please.
Right. Birthright citizenship, in terms of the merits, will have to wait until a later decision that's going back down. The issue here is whether the court was correct in issuing a universal or national injunction. The court here says that the government's likely to prevail on that issue. It fails to see where these district courts get this authority at all. And that led to a really uncommon exchange between Justice Barrett and Justice Jackson. And Justice Jackson's opinion, she goes into rather hyperbolic language that this is going to result in our collective demise and basically the fall of our institutions. Justice Barrett would have none of that and went after that dissent. And basically suggested that the danger to democracy is judicial supremacy, and really sort of castigates Jackson for that language.
Now, in the modern era, the last maybe 10 years, the court has become, maybe probably since Clinton, Bush, Gore, the court has become more partisan, and there have been flare-ups of personal invective between justices. But if you're a student of the court, this one stands out. Extremely personal and heated, and the Democrats are going to have a hard time achieving a lot of what they want to achieve in this country until they can get a working majority back on the court, because a lot of 6-3 decisions going against them. Another decision, this would be 101B. Supreme Court says that LGBTQ storybooks, that justices can opt out of classes with LGBTQ storybooks, from a Maryland case. Again, a victory for conservatives on this one. Canada and the U.S. President Trump today terminated trade talks with Canada over what he called an egregious digital services tax on U.S. tech companies, putting the relationship between the U.S. and Canada back in turmoil, and says he's going to announce within a week what he plans to impose on Canada in terms of tariffs. Nonetheless, the S&P ended up at its highest ever. And we continue to be in this mode where the president's trade war, which the markets and Wall Street Sharpies said was going to destroy the U.S. economy, the real economy mixed, but not destroyed. And there may be a sweet spot here where, just as the president had said he would do, U.S. is taking in tariff money, and these deals are not consummated yet, but the United States is gaining some leverage, and if the deals get done eventually, perhaps that will be good. As I said, the president mocked the Iranian Ayatollah today. Big post on Truth Social, talked about it in his press conference as well, using very evocative language. Reconciliation, we expect there to be votes in the Senate. The president today once again reaffirmed that he wants in a Truth Social post, that he wants the bill on his desk passed by both House and Senate by July 4th. The Senate still hasn't solved the problems, but there was some progress today on some of the issues. And so I'm more bearish, less bearish, more bullish on the prospects that they could actually meet the July 4th deadline. I still don't understand how they do that without the hammer of the debt ceiling, but we shall see. As I said, the president of UVA is being forced out of his job because of conflict with the Trump administration. Seems like an extremely big story to me. I'm not sure all the details there, but that happens. It's happening. And lastly, two of the major New York City unions, which had endorsed Andrew Cuomo, it switched their support today, Mr. Mamdani. It's going to be very difficult for Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams or anybody else to beat him as the Democratic nominee if more of the establishment and institutional elements of the Democratic Party, like labor unions, Bill Clinton and Jerry Nadler, so far standing out, move to him. But there's no doubt that the business community is still looking for an alternative and is not accepting him. And still no signs of broad outreach from Mamdani to those who are scared of his policies. I continue to take heat for saying anything nice about him. I'm not an endorser of socialism. I'm not an endorser of his, but I said on Next Up and here on this platform, this is a very talented guy. And even Democrats who loathe his liberal progressive policies have to accept the fact that part of why he won this nomination was he's able to focus on affordability, which is a big issue in New York City, but it's a big issue everywhere. And anyone in either party, like Donald Trump did in the Republican Party, who can speak to the forgotten men and women of the working class in an evocative way, in a clever way, in a vivid way, that's talent. And that's where the voters are. So I find it amusing how people who engage on the national town square either are too stupid to understand what I'm saying or purposely are misrepresenting what I'm saying. It's disappointing. I would think people could listen clearly and carefully, but they don't. All right. In a moment, we're going to listen to a little bit of President Trump from his press conference today with our two great guests. And as I said, if you'd like to be part of the conversation, please raise your hand if you're here on the two-way platform, and we'd love to have you be part of it in just a few minutes. Another word from another sponsor, Cozy Earth. Summer is here. See this shirt I'm wearing? Made from Cozy Earth. All their stuff made from viscose, from bamboo. It feels great. It's naturally wicking away heat and moisture from your body, helping you live and sleep better. Cozy Earth bamboo sheets, their tees like this one. I love it. Wear it all the time. And their pants all different than what you might be used to and what you're wearing now. If you buy their sleep stuff, their sheets, you get a 100-night sleep trial. You can try them out. If you don't like them, if they're not keeping you cooler, turn it and you send it back, hassle-free. But I bet you will keep them, and then you get their 10-year warranty for all that comes with all their bedding products, a decade of cool quality sleep. So right now, upgrade your summer sleep. Head to CozyEarth.com. Use the code two-way. You get 40% off their best-selling sheets, pajamas, and more. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy with Cozy Earth products. I recommend them to you. I love them, particularly now when it's a little bit hot here. All right, let's bring in our guests, two folks we very, very much appreciate being part of the extended two-way family. Hogan Gidley, Republican strategist, worked in the Trump White House in the first term and now is an advisor to, amongst others, Speaker Mike Johnson. And let's bring Hogan in here. Here he is. Hogan Gidley. Hogan, did I get your resume right? Did I miss anything I should have mentioned? Got to unmute first.
Yeah, no, you got it.
You got it. Now, is Nomi here?
She's there.
She's there. How come I
just unmute too?
Oh, there she is. All right. Welcome in. Welcome in. And as I learned the last time you guys were on together, you guys are kind of besties.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a minute since we've caught up.
Yeah.
We've run into each other a couple of times. Hogan, what's up with this shirt? I need to understand what this is.
What does it say? What does it say, Hogan?
10% for the big guy.
10%.
I saw Hunter Biden was sued today by the law firm for not paying his money, and all I could think of was in honor of the famous text messages and emails of Hunter Biden saying when all the money he collects all over the world, he's got to hold back 10% for the big guy, for Joe Biden. I just thought, hey, let's remember that little gem and remind everybody the Biden crime family is still rolling deep.
All right.
That's what the Democrats are really focusing on right now is the Biden family as our leadership.
Exactly. All right. So let's take a survey amongst the two of you.
Look at those muscles, though. Come on, check those out.
Hogan is
Hogan, what's up with the muscle?
Hogan is ripped. Hogan.
I just eat like 5 pounds of pasta, and you're like making
all Hogan has is almond milk, avocado, and kale smoothies. That's it. That's all he has.
None of that is true.
Yeah.
Fact check.
Hogan was blessed by genes is the answer. He's never been to the gym. He's never lifted up a dumbbell.
I don't believe that. No. That is, you just said almond milk and avocados.
Yeah.
I just had pastas.
When Hogan eats pizza, he does not fold the slice, by the way. Just
criminal.
Holds it out straight. All right. We're going to take a survey. 3 people are going to vote. Okay. You 2 and then a third person. Here's the question. Has President Trump, is a binary, has President Trump had a good week? Yes or no? Good week politically and policy-wise. Good week. Nomi, yes or no?
No.
No. Hogan, yes or no?
Very much yes.
Very much yes. Let's have a gentleman from New York break the tie. 109, please.
So I think that'll be it. And I just want to thank everybody. This is a really big day. We've had a big week. You know, we've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous. Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And I want to give credit to a lot of people, and most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them. Incredible. The general and all of his generals. Pete Hegseth was great.
All right. So, Hogan, I know why you think he had a good week. Nomi, tell me why you think he did not have a good week.
Wishy-washy. I mean, this was a very long week for Donald Trump. He, it was mercurial. It was back and forth. And I know we're going to get to New York later, but that was seismic too. That pulled the messaging away from what, as Donald Trump is trying to take over the messaging and control the international situation, especially with NATO. It wasn't great to have his own city, Queens, combat him with a very strong messenger for the Democratic Party that we've all been looking for. With that being said, I mean, Iran still struck back. Was it a real strike back? Was it something that was actually going to make, or was it just something symbolic? Fine, but they still struck back. So he hasn't been in complete control. He's been trying, and NATO was cut short. And I just think it was a mediocre week. It wasn't negative, and it definitely wasn't positive. It was just all over the place.
All over the place. All right. You guys are fans of the TV show, The West Wing?
Yes.
I mean, in the old days, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Kristen Chenoweth plays a conservative advisor who comes in to advise a liberal president. So Nomi, if you were in a mirror image, if you were an advisor to Donald Trump now, because he said, I've seen you on two-way, and I just want you in here. I want your perspective. And
that's what he would do, actually.
And he called you into the Oval, and he said, I saw you with Mark and Hogan saying I had a bad week. Would you really tell him, Mr. President, you really had a bad week?
I would say to him that, it was a lot of wag the dog. And people are smart enough to realize it's wag the dog. If it was about his base, if it was about keeping them calm when they were turning on him like 4 days ago, and don't forget, at the beginning of this week, his base was turning on him. So we're not talking about a week. We're talking about the last couple of days. The beginning of this week, his base was turning on him for Iran. And then he flipped on it, 3 days later with NATO and did the best he could. Now, is that a great week? No, because his base was turning on him 3 days ago. So you can't just rely on wag the dog. Let's not forget, 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, Elon Musk was fighting with him. And then suddenly ice storms Los Angeles, and then the protests start happening. And then that's happening, and it grows out of control.
What was he trying to distract from reconciliation?
I think from the fighting with Elon Musk and
no, I mean this week, what was he trying to do?
Well, I mean, with Iran and what was happening, I mean, he had a large swath of his base, the Zionist base that supported him, was turning on him. You had Laura Loomer and those folks, Ben Shapiro and all those guys who were turning on him. That was 4 days ago, 3 days ago.
So what's he doing to distract? What's the thing he's doing to distract from that?
Flipping the narrative. I mean, he's flipping the narrative and striking back against Iran. And then, of course, his NATO summit. But it's like every day is a year for Donald Trump. But the problem is that doesn't work. Like when we're talking about the midterms, it's not going to work. When we're talking about having a consistent, presidency where he can build a coalition, it's not going to work. At the end of the day, he's not able to keep his coalition together.
All right, Hogan, what do you think of that?
Yeah. Oh, Nomiki. No. The Iran nuclear strikes were supported by 93% of MAGA. The last poll I saw, 87% of most Republicans concerned about Iran getting a nuclear weapons, saying they couldn't. It was like, 77% of independents, 77% of Democrats. Coalition was not fractured. There were a couple of people out there who didn't like him going after Iran. But again, that's the peace through strength doctrine he had the first time around. They didn't like it when he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. They didn't like it when he killed Soleimani. And they said, the experts, time and time again, it would make the region devolve into chaos. It didn't. Same thing happens here. Peace broke out. I mean, who knew? So Trump not only has really strong political instincts, probably the best I've seen in my 30 years in politics, he also has the benefit of having been president before. So he understands the region. He understands a lot of the ins and outs here. He didn't have to learn. He did that already. So he's coming to this with a whole level of discernment, knowledge, and wisdom that the first time around he obviously didn't have and had to pick up on the fly. But I mean, this week, the S&P, of course, hit its highest mark. He's got peace deals in Africa, for heaven's sakes. What he did with Israel and Iran, of course, huge as well. NATO paying 5%. I was at NATO in the first term when he said, if you don't pay 2%, maybe I won't protect you guys. Maybe America's not here to protect you. We're not going to be the world's piggy bank. The world lost its mind. And then the head of NATO, Stoltenberg at the time, pulls Trump aside and says, thank you so much for this. We need people to pay their fair share.
Hogan, hold on 1 second. Are we able to take Fox News Live right now? If we can, I'd like to. So just throw it up if we can. Hogan, keep going until you see your friend Stephen Miller, and then
he's on my TV right here.
Yeah, I know, but I'm telling you. All right, stand by. Here's Stephen Miller live with Brett Baer.
United States Constitution and the idea that this special privilege does not belong to illegal aliens and their children. I'll make one more point about democracy. Chuck Schumer and the Democrat Party presided over the invasion of this country, violating our immigration laws, violating our sovereignty. And now they're relying on a handful of district court judges to cement that invasion. Americans showed up at the polls in overwhelming numbers to repel that invasion, to put Donald Trump back in the White House. With today's action, the Supreme Court has said that President Trump can fully deliver on the mandate the American people gave him in November.
And we'll see in October how the Supreme Court deals with this in the big picture, specifically on the issue of birthright citizenship and where that goes. I just want to ask you one more thing about the tariffs. The president answered some questions
jump out of this.
about that.
He seems as happy as I did on the day I had my first cronut.
He may just write letters to
very happy. All right, I want to run through. A bunch of stories and just have you guys weigh in as you wish at whatever length you wish. The Supreme Court ruling here on Stephen there was talking about on limiting the power of district court judges to have national injunctions. Hogan, thoughts on that?
I think Stephen's right. I think it's kind of lunacy when you can have one judge kind of determine the entire law for the country. And honestly, when you're on our side of the aisle and you've seen this happen time and time again, especially when you're Donald Trump and 70% of the things you do are enjoined in court. 65 or 67% of all injunctions against the president happen against one president. It was Donald Trump. It's because they don't like him using the authority and the powers given to him under the Constitution. So they use the court system to try and stop him. And they do that by venue shopping and finding the most favorable judges. So those judges who are, for the most part, radical to some degree, at least trying to be activists from the bench, definitely political, will make that ruling, knowing good and well, once they make the ruling, that that's the blanket policy, the blanket statute for the country. I think that's silly, and I think this court got it right.
Nomi, thoughts on that ruling?
I just find it comical that the Republicans who've been using the judicial system for the last 10 years and have basically taken advantage of it in every way possible. And I'll give you guys credit. Kudos. The Republicans had the Democrats had their eye off the ball for years and years. And you guys really seized in on legislatures and with justices. So despite, I'd say the majority of justices in this country, by far, like 65% at least, are more conservative, appointed by Republicans, you guys have the advantage here, and you're still complaining.
Well,
Comical.
Let me say, Nomiki's right about one piece of this, because back in the day in 2016, when we were arguing these things on another network, interestingly enough, I remember in the green room, somebody asked me, why do Republicans point out the Supreme Court as one of their issues? Like, why is it polled so high? Why do you guys care? And I'm like, because we've lost so many cases. So it becomes a big issue if you lose the cases. Now, what's funny is Nomiki understands now you're losing cases. So I guarantee you the Supreme Court is going to be an issue for Democrats as well in the upcoming elections. So now that we're starting to win these cases, it's a little jarring for them because they don't remember the fact, or they maybe forgot or choose to memory hole it. We lost a lot of these things. And so it was a big kind of rallying cry,
right.
And also, vote turnout mechanism for us to talk about the court.
Right. Let me tell you about two foreign policy things that have just happened in the last, 30 minutes or something, and then get both of you to react. First, as I said earlier, the president, both in his press conference today and on social media, has really been mocking the Ayatollah. And the Iranian foreign minister, who loves using X, went on X and said, amongst other things, if President Trump is genuine about wanting a deal, he should put aside the disrespectful and unacceptable tone towards Iran's supreme leader, Grand Ayatollah Khomeini, and stop hurting his millions of heartfelt followers. Guess they don't believe in sticks and stones in Iran. And then this is what the president
believe in them.
Yeah. This is what the president said moments ago, or this within the last hour, I think, in the Oval Office about Gaza. Roll that, please.
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza. He's asking about, and we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're in theory not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people. Once you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now. But so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that.
Okay.
Get
So
a meal, essentially.
again, we've got Iran, we've got Gaza. Nomi, is the president having success in the Middle East lately, or you don't think there's real success here?
Of course not. And he's been back and forth with Netanyahu, and ever since his deals with Saudi, I mean, he's all over the place. And listen, like the commentary he just made right now is ridiculous. I mean, we've been funding, of course, Netanyahu's perspective, his way of it, the bombs that have gone into Gaza. In Netanyahu, who is not popular by far with his own people, has been starving folks in Gaza, and the Trump administration and his allies have talked about developing Gaza. So, I mean, it's over now. Like the messaging that Donald Trump is using is not working anymore unless it's with his base or with his extremely conservative Zionist base, because the majority of Israelis don't agree with this policy. The majority of Americans don't agree with these policies. And I think he's trying to placate because Netanyahu seems to be very frustrated with his moves in the last few weeks. I mean, I question who Trump is actually aligning with at this point. 2 months ago, it was clearly he was with the Netanyahu administration, but now it seems like he's making deals with other folks, and I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
Hogan, it seems to me and to many people I talked to, including some in the administration, that whatever damage was done by the military operation in Iran, there still needs to be a negotiation to put in inspection regimes, etc. Does that seem on track to you? Do you know anything about whether that's actually happening with Witkoff or some other track?
I don't know if that's what's happening now, but I mean, that's what he's always talked about. Look, he doesn't like wars. He was the one who didn't have any on his watch. He was the first president to, be in office and not have Russia try and take territory. He made peace deals in the Middle East again in the first term and now this term as well. I mean, he doesn't like these types of things. However, he understands that the peace through strength agenda, the moniker, is effective. He understands that. I mean, what he did in the first term, what he's doing now, I think is unbelievable. It's unprecedented. Yeah. And so where we are in this world, and by the way, I don't know, Nomiki, the polls show most Americans, right, left, center, anything in between, say that they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. The way you do that is prevent them from having a nuclear weapon. And so Donald Trump, with no boots on the ground, and that was the whole thing. I couldn't understand. It was like, it was a choice that it was a false choice that some Republicans were saying was, are we going to go in there full bore with boots on the ground, or are we going to be isolationists? I'm like, there's a million different things in between. And as we all know, foreign policy is very difficult. It's very nuanced. And he understands that enough to go, hey, this strategic surgical strike is exactly what we need to have happen. And I would argue most people in this country get that and support it based on the polling I've seen. And there are plenty of people in the region, like the surrounding areas, that also agree with it, like Saudi, like Jordan, and others who are quietly cheering this. So rallying the region around the common idea of not allowing Iran to get a nuclear weapon is what got us the Abraham Accords in the first place. Now we find out they were really close because of the fast track from Obama and Biden and others. It was well within the realm of a peacemaking operation to try and make sure that didn't happen.
Okay, I want to ask two more topics, and we're going to go to your questions again. If you want in the conversation, please raise your hand. First, on the New York City mayor's race, Hogan's been to New York, but I'm not sure he knows the difference between a knish and a cannoli. So let me start with Nomi and Hogan. If you want to weigh in, you can. Dan Turntine, who lives in New York and knows a little bit about the Democrats, he thinks the Democratic nominee for mayor, Ms. Mamdani, has only a 60% chance to win the general election. I think it's higher, and maybe substantially higher. Nomi, what do you think? Is it higher than 60?
I mean, as of right now, yes, absolutely. You have Curtis Sliwa, who is adamantly not getting out of the race. Love it, by the way. Just love Curtis's energy. He's like, you have to put me in, what did he say today? You have to put me in a coffin. And this is a guy who's been threatened by the mob. Like, they went after him. You know his history. He's a Republican.
You have to put him in a coffin to keep him from being the nominee.
Being the nominee, exactly. Then you have Eric Adams, of course, who's a former Republican and the current mayor, who is rapping his way. I mean, we have two rappers in this race. Let's just be fair.
Rapper on rapper action.
So Eric Adams and then Cuomo. But the question is where the money is going. And I think fundamentally, when you're a winner, you're a winner. And Zohran, I know him personally. He's my assembly member for years. He's a very reasonable person. I think he's presenting himself that way to a lot of the establishment Democrats. Like, let's be real, the Republican, I'm sorry, excuse me, the Brooklyn borough president came out right away. The Brooklyn County chair came out right away. The establishment is lining up. The hotel workers came out. These are the forces that really get things done in New York, whether it's a primary or a general. Yes, there are Republicans who exist in New York, and they're going to be split. And they're not that many. They're not as many as people think. Yes, Trump did better than he did previously, but they're going to be split between Adams, Sliwa, and Cuomo. And, and now Zohran's been able to build a coalition in like 2 days.
Yeah. You think he'd mind me calling him Zohran? You think he'd mind?
Zohran?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he's a chill guy. I think he's very.
Okay. So you think the percentage chance he wins the general and becomes mayor is higher than 60. What's the number you'd put on it?
85.
85? Is that what you said? You cut out 85.
85%.
85%. How do you allocate the remaining 15%?
Great question. I think Cuomo is just good riddance.
Yeah. So 15% for Adams.
I think it's like probably, 11% for Adams and split the rest between Curtis and
okay.
Cuomo.
Hogan, you want to lay in from the Beverly Hillbillies hee haw wing of the group? Want to talk about the big city?
Um, the big city. Yeah, I'm reminded always when I think of this race of that the H.L. Mencken quote about democracy is the theory that the common man knows what they want and they deserve to get it good and hard.
Yeah.
They're about to get some sweet democracy good and hard up there. And I think his platform, that's an overtly avowed communist platform, is going to be quite unpalatable to people in New York when prices start going through the roof. And also when he defunds the police and all the things he's promised to do.
Well, he says he's no longer for that.
Can do that.
He's
Oh, he's
repeating
not doing that. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm sure.
No,
Anyway,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, far be it for me to question your big city ways, Mark. I just think, I think it's going to be a problem. New York already has, all cities have some pretty big struggles. I think they're about to have some more with this guy.
Hogan, keep your wallet in your front pocket. Nomi, we had former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio on the other night, and he said he thought Mamdani was going to moderate and name a great police commissioner, as Bill de Blasio himself did, to demonstrate a move to the center. Do you see signs already, or do you anticipate that he will take nuanced steps, not to sacrifice his principles, but to reassure people like Hogan and Bill Daley and others that he's not going to be too extreme?
Listen, Jessica Tisch is an esteemed police commissioner right now that people love, and that's somebody that Eric Adams could bring in after he went through. I mean, the
three bad ones.
Exactly. First wave or three of Eric Adams's commissioners across the board were a mess, many who've been indicted. And he went to Bill de Blasio's administration and said, oh, who are your people? And let's bring them in. And I think that's actually what's probably going to happen with Mamdani is I think Zohran is, he understands that we don't have a lot of history with progressive mayors in the last 50 years. We have 1 to 2, Dinkins and de Blasio. And de Blasio came out with lower crime. He had to deal with, he had universal pre-K and 3K, which is a huge issue it's like one of the highest issues in terms of affordability in New York City. And so that's why Eric Adams today said that he wants to come out with universal childcare, because he's now competing with Zohran on an issue that, some would say is socialist. This is what Zohran is talking about, is affordability issues that, his ideas, free buses, they exist. These are policies that exist in other parts of the United States right now. These aren't radical ideas. The problem is that Zohran is dealing with Wall Street. Wall Street is intertwined with real estate in New York City, and New York City's real estate industry controls the New York political establishment. And Zohran is not playing games with them. When he talks about rent freezes, this has happened. This happened under de Blasio for 3 times he did it. This isn't something revolutionary. The problem is that real estate is so obsessed with making money that they will find every single way, whether it's abundance or other strategy, the poor door, there's all sorts of strategies they've had over the years to make money. But the truth is, rents are going up. I live in a rent stabilized apartment, and my rent stabilized apartment is still going up by 20% under Adams. This is a problem. Affordability is a major issue in New York City. And I think, Zohran's not talking about anything communist. He's talking about, can you afford to have a coffee in the morning that it doesn't cost $10? Because the rent of the coffee company is going up. It's not because of wages. It's because the rent is going up. These are the bread and butter issues that every New Yorker is dealing with, and no other candidate is bringing it up right now. So fundamentally, at the end of the day, I don't think that this is radical. I think the fact that he has an issue on Palestine and that he is DSA is what makes people think he's radical. But if you actually look at his policies, they're pretty, measured compared to the rest of the world and the rest of the country, frankly.
Hogan, one more thing you want to say on this?
I was just saying, I want to go back to the times when we had the guy, what was the guy's name? The rent is too damn high party.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah. That's what I think we should do.
That was good. Lastly, Hogan, so go ahead, Nomi.
What was his name? Jimmy. Oh my God.
Jimmy Williams. Jimmy Williams. That's his name.
He's great.
I don't remember. He was great though.
Well, someone will put it in the chat.
He and Thompson played him on SNL.
He did a good job. Hogan, is reconciliation going to pass by July 4th?
I think so. Still, I'm still kind of bullish on you are. They're hashing out their things. Trump, to his credit, said, "Look, I'm gonna stay in town. Anyone who goes home, don't go home. Right? We need to get this done." But then he also gave a crack too into that dam where he said something to the effect of, hey, that deadline, it's fine. I'd like to do it, but we'll see what happens, because I'll tell you, if this thing passes before July 4th or even on July 4th, the party he's going to put on, the show he's going to put on at the White House on the South Lawn on the 4th, and then have the fireworks and whole thing, I think is going to be epic.
Yeah. All right.
Like the military parade?
Do what?
Like the military parade?
Epic like that. Jimmy McMillan is the guy's name. Jimmy.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Now time for your questions or comments for our esteemed panel. Hogan Gidley, Nomiki Konst, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind. We start with Jack Desmond. Jack, welcome.
Hope you all have a good weekend, but I think Donald Trump sure will. It amazes me when I see people complaining about the fabulous success he had. I think the president was a bit over the top in his excessive rhetoric, but that's his style. But when you look at the alternative, which would have been Iran, who has vowed to exterminate Israel and go after the United States, in a nihilist government that extols martyrdom, having them with a nuclear weapon is frightening. That would have taken out Jordan, Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, and much of the rest, not to mention even Italy, perhaps, depending on the wind. So you have to give him credit for what he did. And but likewise, I think the media just gets over the top, and I would even going local for New York anyway. Only in New York City would you have had a nominee getting through a city, that government, to be mayor. The rest of the country certainly will never take him, even the Democrats in this country, as a model for where the Democratic Party needs to go. If they did, that would spell their demise forever.
We got a lot of liberal mayors in America. Jack, do you have a question you want to ask, or you just want to get all that off your chest?
I really wonder how they can accommodate what they say about the media that goes along with this stuff. They're expecting a solution in a 60-minute television show. These kind of intelligence things that to verify what goes on, they take often months, and I just don't see any kind of responsible behavior. I find it hard to defend the media in this one.
Thank you, Jack. Naomi, is the press more demanding of this president for quick resolution than they were for Barack Obama or Joe Biden?
Good question. I actually do think so. I think that they are more demanding of this president, some press, but simultaneously they're missing the mark on a million different issues. So I'm going to give conservatives that. I do think that the press is harsher on this president, deservedly so, but also in ways that I wish they could go a little bit deeper. I mean, I think the press is very reactionary to the moment. Okay. That's where we are right now.
Okay.
It's like,
sorry, Naomi, finish up. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, finish up.
Oh, didn't mean to interrupt, but apparently she's done. Hogan.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I mean, obviously, as a Republican, I find the media to be very difficult. I have friends in the media, Mark, you know that, and I've had friends in the media on both sides of the aisle for a long time. But to pretend as though their coverage isn't biased or skewed against conservatism is ridiculous. I mean, 94% of all the coverage on Donald Trump in the first term by every available data and metric point was negative. The same thing applied in the campaign, this last campaign. 92%, 89% was positive on Kamala, 94% negative on Trump. So, I mean, that's just an old, we're used to it. I think the difference though with Donald Trump is, whereas like you have a lovable loser like Mitt Romney whining about the media, Trump was like, nope, you're all fake, you're all lying, whatever. And that resonated with a lot of folks. And I think to this day, he's broken them so badly. Remember in the first term, cabinet secretaries wouldn't go out on TV much. I mean, I had to prep them on Saturdays for Sunday shows, and it was, it was like pulling teeth. Now they're with him all of the time. They're out on television all the time. Pete Hegseth just took apart multiple outlets in front of him at the briefing room at the Pentagon a couple of days ago. So I don't think our side is afraid of the media anymore. And I will tell you, you get rid of all of Donald Trump's executive orders, you change all the bills, do whatever you want. The one thing I think that will linger and last for a long time on the right is he basically said, it's okay to fight back. You don't have to believe these people. You can push back as hard as you want. And whether you think that's good, bad, or indifferent, I think he emboldened a lot of Republicans to come out and say, no, I'm not going to play that game anymore. And I think you see it. That's why their ratings at these major networks are so low. It's a problem of their own making. They've been lying to us now for decades on a whole host of issues. And the difference is this president calls them out repeatedly. And there are enough outlets like yours, Mark, and others that talk about things that are real to real Americans. And there are other places to get information. So it really makes them, not irrelevant at all. It's kind of fascinating.
It is fascinating. Peter, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Nomi and Hogan.
Hi. So a couple of comments and more relating my own sort of personal journey to this idea of Trump not getting any credit. So through the first half, at least I would say, of Trump's first term, I considered myself ideologically aligned with what you would call the populist left. But what started to, and I was not in favor of Trump, I was very against him in 2016. And one of the things that started, and there was what ended up becoming a bigger journey beyond even politics there. But what started to turn me around on him was that he was doing things that he had wanted to do things like have less hostile relations with Russia, or especially actually going to meet with Kim Jong-un and try to negotiate a real lasting peace settlement in the Korean Peninsula. Which, I remembered when Barack Obama said he would meet with Kim Jong-il without any preconditions in 2008 and supporting him in saying that. And then I thought to myself, no one on quote unquote my side is giving him any credit for this. And you just only ever saw these silly process objections and never any real questions on the substance. And I don't think I'm the only one who came from that place to be much more support. And I was skeptical of the Iran strikes, by the way, but I think that we're on a path to have the best possible outcomes from that. And what hasn't been talked about is, and again, the question of giving credit, if it in fact holds this peace agreement between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, that conflict has been going on off and on since 1996 with literally millions of dead. And where's the credit for that? It's just absurd.
Okay, Peter, thank you. Go ahead.
Can I make one point, Peter? You bring up something interesting because the Russia thing in the outset of when Trump was saying we should have a better relationship with Russia. Hillary Clinton said that. But it was what was so jarring was all of a sudden Trump says it, and now it's a crazy notion to want to have a good relationship with Russia. And I was with Trump in South Korea when he tweeted about meeting Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and it happened in just a few days. And on that border, when we were at the DMZ looking into North Korea, President Moon of South Korea at the time told Trump on the watchtower, Mr. President, we used to have rockets flying over here all the time. And since you've been president, they've just stopped. And we're a much more peaceful place. We're safer now because of you. And Trump looked at me and then looked at the press and goes, tell the media. They're never going to believe it if I say it. You do it. So I do understand exactly what you're saying, because it's just, and maybe this is just the polarizing nature of politics and or Donald Trump or whatever. But those attacks coming in from all areas and from all stripes of people who didn't have a problem when some other politician or some other president didn't say the exact same thing, is just mind-boggling to me. But it still happens all the time.
No.
Yeah, and I had one quick comment about the New York City race, because I live in the SF San Francisco Bay Area now. I was born in New York City. I've seen Zohran talks all he wants about. First of all, it's hilarious that he tries to present himself as this working class champion. I've seen the neighborhood map breakdowns, or his base of support is affluent white people in literally the most gentrified neighborhoods. And we see this in San Francisco too, where, San Francisco last year had mayoral local elections where, the DSA person got elected to the most gentrified part of San Francisco.
Peter, hold on. Just because I want Nomi to respond to this point. Nomi, it seems to be true from the election results that his support is not from working class voters as much as it is from very wealthy voters. Is that factually true? And what do you think the reason for that is?
No, I mean, the Upper East Side, if you look at the Upper East Side where the wealthiest voters in the country are, those were undeniably with Andrew Cuomo.
Right, but in general, his support is from better, like not the coalition of the ascendant. It's more from the part of the Obama coalition that was wealthy, well-educated people and disproportionately white, correct?
What's important to keep in mind here is in primaries, we have the highest turnout areas of the city that are consistent, and these are the highest area turnouts of the city. Now, does that translate differently in a general election? Absolutely. Andrew Cuomo was preying on a machine in a lot of ways, and he got some of the machine to turn out. But what was amazing was that Zohran actually was able to crack into that machine. So he actually was able to move numbers that they thought he wouldn't be able to. If you look at that map, there are parts of the city that no one ever thought in a million years Zohran was able to get into. I mean, there are parts of Brooklyn, they were like, that's not happening. There are parts of Southeast Queens, that's not happening. And he got in there. So I think the message is spun by Cuomo's team, frankly, when he was actually supposed to be doing better across the map and he didn't. And so now they're talking about places like Bushwick, which, by the way, Bushwick is not a wealthy area. That was his highest turnout area of the entire city, was Bushwick.
Yeah.
Not the wealthiest area.
Isn't he very wealthy?
Area. Upper East Side and Upper West Side are the wealthiest areas, and that's where Andrew Cuomo did the best. So I don't actually agree with that, and you guys have to really dig into those numbers to understand better.
Isn't he very wealthy himself?
No,
his family?
He's his mom's a filmmaker and his dad's a professor. And by the way, does that matter? FDR was wealthy and he cared about working class people. It's not about that. It's about everybody having access. I mean, I would love it if Ackman cared about working class people, but instead he cares about tax breaks for his buddies. The question is, why are the rich people so obsessed? Why is, Jeff Bezos in Venice right now with the wealthiest people in the world and not willing to pay taxes and fighting off the left for not paying working wages? I don't care if Zohran or any wealthy person is advocating for working people. They don't have to be working people to advocate for working people. The question is, why are these oligarchs suppressing working people?
Yeah, but it's different because Trump was wealthy and said, hey, I'm wealthy. I want you to be wealthy. I'm not hiding from it like a Romney did, for example. But this mayoral candidate is trying to pretend as though he's just some working class stiff when he's not.
Well, I don't think he's a millionaire, Hogan, like you.
No. Well, speaking of Mark, I want to show you how committed you are to this show. I know you were supposed to go to that Bezos wedding, and so I'm so glad you said, no, I'm staying because I want to make sure this show goes on.
You talk about a city with affordability issues. I just wouldn't go to Venice. It's too expensive. Reed, welcome in. Tell folks, but I will send them a gift. I'm going to buy him something on Amazon.
Yeah.
Reed, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Thank you for pulling over. What's on your mind after you tell us where you are for Hogan and Nomi?
I am on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I am staring at the the shrimp boats on a wonderful Friday afternoon, drinking a Modelo.
Yes.
You're driving? Hang on.
Well, I'm at the end of my street. This is what we look at every day. It's wonderful. So it's not a stretch.
Okay. All right.
I love that we're calling people by their first name today versus the Baltimore man, the alleged person. So Zohran, I think Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly's podcast yesterday did a good job of breaking down some of the right's position on that. A couple of thoughts. I don't think that Trump's base has turned on him earlier this week about Iran. I thought Charlie came out and said in first name speak and said he was going to support him and supports him, but wanted to let him know that the youth vote that got played a big role in getting Trump in the office needed to be understood. And of course, Tucker's call, first name, and makeup with Trump was significant, and Laura and Steve's time with Trump kind of showed that. I think Trump's successes and his success this week are going to be written about in many a book in the future, especially as he sets the stage for the Abraham 2.0 and the Nobel Peace Prize 2.0, bringing in more Arab states into this deal that was the round one.
Reed, hold on. Reed, hold on just a second. Nomi, do you have any questions for Reed based on what he said so far?
Oh, do I have questions? These are,
Yeah.
I mean.
Anything you want to ask him?
Okay, Steve was Steve Bannon, right? That's
yeah, that's
Steve
right.
Bannon. Yeah. Okay.
I'm processing. I'm processing.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
And this
ask away.
I think Hogan will be able to help us understand this.
Yeah.
Was it Trent, first name again, who was able to remove the parliamentarian when he was in power?
Yeah.
And how risky is Elizabeth, first name again, McDonough, in this bill passage, this great big beautiful bill, because it seems like she's really attacking 2A stuff and picking and pulling based off of the Byrd rule, and I think that's a really curiosity of I know Sean, first name, called it 3-4 weeks ago that was the person to look for over the weekend, and now here she is.
Reed, hold on, Reed, just because we're getting near the end of the road here. Hogan, MAGA and a lot of MAGA senators like Senator Tuberville want the parliamentarian ousted. Why is John Thune saying no? Just because he's worried Democrats will do it too?
I have no idea. I have no idea. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I know that this is a point of contention and frustration on the House side for sure, just because I deal with them every day. And I think MAGA is very furious about her as well. And again, it's one of those jobs where if you're doing your job fine, you probably won't ever learn the person's name. If there's a problem, you're learning their name, first name or last for that matter. And then you've got a whole nother set of issues. Everyone's just looking around going, who is this lady with all this power? What is happening here? So, and I don't know procedurally, when it goes back to the House, they may be able to drop some more stuff in and then just vote it over on that side too. I don't know how to send it back or not. There are all kinds of procedural questions here, but regardless, it does come down to the sexiest of all topics, mathematics. Do they have the votes to get it through? Do they have the votes on the House side? That's the question. And depending on what they do to it on the Senate side, who knows? I just don't know.
Nomi.
Agreed.
All right, agreed. Very grateful to you both for joining.
Congress, but Republicans got to do what they got to do. That's their mess.
All right, very grateful to you both. Nomi, what are you doing this weekend?
I'm in Italy. I was in Greece last week. I'm in Italy now.
Did you go straight or did you come back?
No. I went straight. It's like 45 minutes.
And what's your Italy agenda?
A wedding.
Another wedding.
Bezos?
Food, pasta.
Are you going to the Bezos wedding?
Oh, no. I'm protesting it. Oh, you thought I was going to a wedding. No, I'm protesting a wedding.
Yep. Are you really in Venice to protest the wedding?
No, I'm not in Venice, and I'm not protesting it.
That would be so good.
That would be good. Hogan, what are you doing this weekend while Nomi tours Europe?
I am getting ready for the passage of the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
So solely focused on making sure the president's America First agenda gets implemented via Congress.
Okay.
So fun, obviously.
All right. Very grateful to you both. Hope you have a great weekend. I hope you'll come back soon.
Anytime, Mark. You guys are great.
But don't come back next week because this show's not on. Reminder that both the morning meeting and 2A Tonight are on hiatus next week. No programs, at least not those two programs. And we'll be back with both shows a week from Monday. Now, let's say you're desperate for my content. Could happen. Tonight, I'll be on News Nation with my friend Leland Vitter, 9 o'clock. I might shave for that. I didn't shave for this. I might. Undecided. And I'll remind you that Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern, Cancer Decoded, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong and I will be back. We've got some great guests we'll be announcing shortly. So 7:30 Eastern time, Cancer Decoded. If you want information, the latest research information about cancer, or if you want to continue to help us build a community around the country and around the world for people who have dealt with cancer, are dealing with it now, to share the best information and to create comfort and understanding as part of people who deal with this extraordinarily big challenge, please join us 7:30 Eastern time next week. And there'll be other 2 ways on as well. Please check my Substack, social media accounts to learn when other episodes of programs are on. But I'll say again, please don't email me Monday morning and ask me how you can sign on to the morning meeting, because it's not on this Monday or the whole next week. I don't know how many times I'm going to need to say it. But please, this program, hiatus next week as well as morning meeting, but we'll be back a week from Monday. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you have a great week next week. I'll see you Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time for Cancer Decoded, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks so very much to our guests and to all of you for being part of the two-way community. Good night. Have a great weekend.